Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle Dresbold, and today we are going to go over dating tips. Are you in a relationship that you first met the person and you thought, oh my God, is he or she a dreamboat? Only to find out that that person was a sinking ship? Don't you wish that they came with some warning notes like warning tag, this? But most people don't. In fact, nobody does, except if you know how to read them. And today we are going to read for you what you might need to know when you're in a relationship. So today it's going to be Lena Sisco, Susan Ibitz, and Janine Driver, and Michelle Dresbold. We are going to give you some tips that might help you in your relationship life. Why don't we introduce ourselves? Susan?
Hi everyone, my name is Susan Ibitz. I'm a human behavior hacker. Some people hack computers, I hack humans. And my specialty in this team is face reading profiling. I can determine your personality by your LinkedIn picture, or I can determine how good lover you are. Best of all, I can tell you what is the communication problem that you have with your partner by your ears, your eyebrows, your eyelids, and tell you how to improve that communication just by changing the way you talk. Lena, back to you.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating. How do you follow that? I'm Lena Sisco, everyone. I am a former interrogator, and I can tell you when somebody's hiding something or seek the hidden truth or find out if somebody is embellishing something just by their rate of speech, their tone of voice, and the words that they use. So I am your statement analysis expert. Glad to be here. Janine, take it away.
Thanks, Lena and Susan and Michelle. All right, I'm the body language girl, Janine Driver over here. I'm the author of You Say More Than You Think. It's a New York Times bestseller, translated in, 15 languages, I think now. I used to teach for a decade a class called How to Have a Date 6 nights a week if you would want, which, by the way, would be exhausting for most people. But if you're looking to have a date 6 nights a week, tonight's segment might help you make some smarter choices before you keep dating the wrong person. Michelle, over to you, sister.
Thank you, Janine. Now, I am the handwriting expert. I can tell pretty much everything about a person from their handwriting. I'm the author of the book, Sex, Lies, and Handwriting. Now, I can tell if you're in a good relationship, you're not in a good relationship, what you need to look for in that handwriting to maybe keep yourself safe in a relationship, and maybe what you're doing wrong that could be ruining your own relationship. So why don't we get started? Today, I want to just tell you a little story about me and why I love handwriting analysis so much. When I was younger, I was in a relationship with somebody who was tall, and none of my profilers know this, so this will be a secret I'm revealing to them and to the world. I was in a relationship with someone who was tall and handsome and rich and smart and brilliant. Think of like Jeffrey Epstein. And everybody would say to me, oh my God, you're so lucky. Oh, I envy you. Even my family liked him, which should have been a first clue that something was wrong. But I would go, something is not right here. I didn't know what it was, but something was wrong and I knew it. But everybody told me how lucky I was. So, at that time I was studying handwriting analysis. And I took his handwriting to my teacher and I said, would you look at this and tell me if you'd want to be in a relationship with this person? So the teacher took that handwriting. She said, class, I want you to look at some handwriting. And I was like, okay. She goes, do you want to see what it looks like if somebody is critical and not just normal critical, someone who you think everything's perfect, and then right when you relax, boom, they give you a dig. I'm like, oh my God, that's this person. So I went back home and they took his handwriting. I took a book just of the simple things like in handwriting. And I would just in black and white wrote down all the things I saw. This, and I try not to get my own feelings, just what was in black and white on that page about this person. And when I was done, I knew it wasn't in my head anymore, that I was dealing with somebody who was not a really nice person. And it helped me get out of that relationship. And I'll tell you, I think it saved me. And because of that, I fell in love with the art of handwriting analysis and what you can tell. Now, I think we're going to talk about some more things. And today, why don't we start with Janine?
All right, I'm going to talk about narcissists. Now, I'm not a therapist. None of us are therapists. However, we have been on TV shows. We work with therapists. I've been on many segments, and I'm going to bring a segment I was on with Dr. Drew, along with an attorney, my friend Jenny Hutt. I don't know if you know her, Jenny Kopelman Hutt, and another friend of mine who is a therapist, Dr. Robbie Ludwig. So I'm going to show you that segment in a bit. But first, let's dive in. You know, what is a narcissist? If you hit Google, what might you find out? What did Freud say about it? And I have a little exercise. We can take the ladies off camera, but I will love for you guys to join in just with your auditory. I'll ask you a couple of questions, and I won't ask each of you the questions, but I'll randomly pick you. So, and you at home, I'd love for you to play and answer these questions. These I brought with me are 6 questions that a narcissist cannot answer. I didn't create these. They're created by a therapist. And I'll introduce you to who's the man who talked about it with over 2 million views on YouTube. So let's dive in. Freud indicated that there are numerous personalities, and he focused with 3 primary types, and he called it erotic, obsessive, and narcissistic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a narcissist. I have numerous friends, therapists, and lawyers in this area that whether you're going through divorce or you're thinking of marrying someone, you're concerned they're a narcissist, or you have a child who's a narcissist, and it doesn't matter if you're in the same-sex marriage. It doesn't matter if you are, you know, living with someone and don't want to get married. It's all different types of people can fall in this category. As a matter of fact, erotic, obsessive, and narcissistic, each of us have a splash of these in us. We do. It's just a matter of, do you have too much? You know, narcissists are prone to, you know, be independent. They're not easily impressed. They're innovators, and they're driven by business to gain power and glory. And narcissists want to be admired. They don't care about being loved. They care about being admired. Do you admire them? Some of the top leaders, business leaders, you might be surprised to find out, are considered narcissists by the experts. Again, myself and Lena and Michelle and Susan, we are not therapists. We work with them all the time. So you can do your own research on this. I'm going to share with you some intel that I've received from my friends in that community. So if you think about it, they tend to be very aggressive, a narcissist, in pursuit of what it is that they want. And because they're so independent and aggressive, they're constantly looking out for enemies. And sometimes they can get a little paranoid when they're under some stress and they think that, you know, people are trying to take them down. I have some celebrities and some singers and you know, I even threw Hitler in here in the mix. These are a splash of what the therapist will often tell you are in the category of narcissist. So you can begin to imagine a narcissist also has positive traits. Like you get someone like a Mariah Carey that's super successful, or Madonna, right? Or even Kanye West, right? Or so it's not just, I think narcissism gets such a bad rap. There are some benefits on the opposite side. Even Freud talked about that, and you can do some research on it a little more. Here's a gentleman, while I was looking for some research on narcissism and to play my games, I like to play the games. His name's Dr. Les Carter, and he's a psychotherapist, and he gave this 8 questions a narcissist simply cannot answer. I brought 6 of his questions, and I'm going to ask the profilers, I'm going to ask you at home, out of the 6, could you give us an answer? If not, you might be a narcissist, or you may at least want to talk to a therapist to find out if you are a narcissist. What can you do? Is there something to do? Is there a reason why people are not loving you? Maybe they fear you. Maybe they respect you. So ladies, profilers, I'm going to pass a couple of questions over to you and see if you can answer some of these questions. All right. You may remember this dress, right? Is it blue or black, or is it gold, right? Gold and white. A narcissist often doesn't care about your opinion. So Lena, if I were to ask you, does your opinion override everyone else's opinion? Would you say yes?
No.
Okay, so a narcissist doesn't care what your opinion is, right? So you want to go do Italian, I want to go do Mexican food tonight. I don't care that you want to do Italian, it's irrelevant. You're going to do what I want. So a typical narcissist has an opinion, their opinion overrides everyone else's, and often they won't even ask you about your opinion, right? So literally your opinion doesn't matter to me, right? So your opinion doesn't matter to them. All right, so Michelle, this question is going over to you.
Okay.
All right. In what ways do you need to change and grow? Can you give me 2 ways you need to change and grow?
I could be more organized, and I could use my time more wisely.
Awesome. So these are great. So a narcissist cannot answer this question. They're like, what do you mean? I'm a New York Times bestselling author. My book, I'm the first New York Times bestselling author I ever met is me. It's translated in 15 languages. And I don't have anything to change. What are you talking about? I'm super successful. So we all have a little bit of an ego and we can be prideful in what we do, but is there a way that you want to change and grow? If you say no to this, then you may be a narcissist. And this comes from shame, deep-rooted shame. And again, this doesn't come from me. This comes from the experts in the psychological world, is this deep-rooted shame that if they say they need to change, it means that they're not perfect. And so that it affects their control, their ability to control. And if you can begin to look at the narcissist almost with some compassion, like, wow, so they don't think they can grow and change. Wow. And that's connected with deep shame. Maybe, Dr. Wayne Dyer said, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I asked my sons today, I go, hey, I'm going to find out if you're a narcissist. Charlie and Jack, my two youngest. And they both gave me answers to this question. And then Charlie, he said, I'd like to be better at making my bed, Mom. I'd like to change on that. And he goes, actually, I have like 20 things. Can I give you 20 things I want to change? I'm like, that a boy, Charlie. All right. This question goes over to you, Susan. What can you tell me? Is there something, without going into details, in one sentence, can you tell me something that has hurt you deeply in your life?
Yes. Some friends then I let to get too deep, and I should be paying attention because I was biased for my own career. And I'm looking like a profiler. I need to look for like a human being. And I should have didn't forget the profiler on me.
Okay. All right. So a narcissist may tell something like, my mother died of breast cancer, but then they'll turn it around and they'll say, but that's not my problem. It's not my fault. It's the cancer that killed her. It's the hospital that misdiagnosed her. You know what? It is what it is. Life goes on, so they tend to not want to process emotions and go deep on themselves and with you. So these are, by the way, write these questions down, rewind it if you've already started to watch it without taking notes. These are questions you may want to talk about in dating, especially if you're online dating. Hey, these are the 6 questions you want to have answered right out of the gate. Can you give me an example of something that's hurt you? All right, back to you, Lena, and you at home. Why is it impossible for you to admit to making mistakes? The narcissists, according to the experts, do not admit to making mistakes. They say it's everybody else's fault. So Lena, back to you. Can you tell me one thing that you made a mistake on recently?
Oh gosh, there's so many. What do I choose? Well, I know, I'll tell you, this didn't happen recently, but it's a huge mistake I made, and it's a training tool that I use, and it's helped me become a better facilitator, trainer, was that I come across as very insensitive when I'm under stress, and I don't take into account people's feelings, and I work on that all the time.
Great. Thank you so much. So the narcissists are not going to admit this mistake. They're like, nope, that's not my fault. So the narcissist, Lena, would say, that's them. That's their perception. That's their problem. They're not used to having a powerful woman run the class. You know what? This is what men do. They say that a powerful woman is insensitive because I'm not crying and holding their hand. You know what? I'm a powerful woman. They can get over it. That's on them. So they'll struggle making mistakes. Again, these are great questions as you're figuring out, is this person your new best friend or not? Before I go into this case that I weighed in on with the media, these are a couple more questions. I won't turn it over to the profilers, but you at home answer them. Do you have a need to impress strangers over your family? I have someone in my life that does this all the time, wants to impress the world instead of impressing their family. All right. They want to be like, wow, you are amazing, like Jurassic Park, and you're seeing the dinosaurs for the first time. It's like, whoa, you don't even see the faults, right? It is a blank canvas for the narcissist. See, a healthy relationship, the therapist or my therapist friends will tell you, and maybe yours at home, a healthy relationship is, I love you even with your faults. We have our pluses and our negatives, and I love you despite them, and I love you with them. And the narcissist is literally about getting the admiration from a stranger over your family. And last but not least, why do my differences bother you so much? So the narcissist will get very angry that you want to go to the gym, Lena. Why would you want to go to the gym? You have 2 feet God gave you. Go walk outside. It's free. Why are you throwing money, flushing it down a toilet, going to the gym? That's ridiculous. Walk through the woods. It's free to exercise. You don't need to pay for a gym. Or the narcissist might be the other way, right? Why are you walking in the woods? That's so stupid. You should go in the gym. It's measured. You're not wasting time. You can make sure you're tracking and controlling when you go up and down a hill. That you're wasting time nonchalantly going through the woods. You're never going to get in shape that way. And so they get really mad and shame you for it. Right? They literally will look at you like this video here, like you're an idiot because you don't believe what they believe. So these are some simple questions to go into. There's a great article on Harvard Business Review. I love HBR, Harvard Business Review. You can get it online or get the magazine. It's like $1 million getting the magazine. But here, this is Narcissist Leaders and the Incredible Pros and Inevitable Cons. An excellent article if you want to go a little deeper with the narcissist. As a matter of fact, the inventor, the creator, Larry Ellison of Oracle, the difference between God and Larry Ellison, God doesn't think he's Larry Ellison. So many people will say Larry Ellison is this, narcissist, this egotistical narcissist. As a matter of fact, he goes head to head with people who challenge him. So he even says Bill Gates wants people to think he's Edison when he's really Rockefeller. Referring to Gates as the smartest man in America isn't right. Wealth isn't the same thing as intelligence, Larry Ellison. So this is typical of someone who might be considered a narcissist. Someone in the audience asks him a question and eats him alive.
Hi, Rolf Winkler from the Wall Street Journal. I had a question about your apps business. I guess you've built a phenomenon, it generates phenomenal cash flows, and a lot of people, it's done so a lot by locking in customers to older software and raising maintenance fees a lot year after year.
That's not true. But wait, let me just stop you. We do not raise maintenance fees a lot year after year after year. People buy more software and they pay the same maintenance fees that they always pay.
I guess the point Mark Andreessen, for instance, has famously said that none of the startups that work with Andreessen Horowitz run Oracle. And I guess I'm wondering over time.
Well, I know. We just have to rely on General Electric and AT&T and Verizon.
I'm saying if the next generation of companies isn't running Oracle.
Which of the Andreessen Horowitz companies have we lost? Well, anyway, they run a net. By the way, they run
generation
a
of large companies isn't going to run Oracle. Does that end up causing your business?
This goes on and on and on, over talking the person, talking with sarcasm, being passive aggressive. If I can find right here, look at, even if you're looking at the body language, these palm down gestures, Lena can tell you, this is what we do in law enforcement or the military. When we go in and the situation is escalating and people are fighting and attacking, we come in, ATF on the ground, law enforcement on the ground. This is what the librarian does to get you to be quiet in the library, or you do as a mother to get your kids to stop being disrespectful and stop. I always like to look at the body language, back up 5 seconds, because body language happens before thought or words. So I back it up a smidge and then I see what's happening here. So let's go one more sound bite with Larry Ellison, CEO of Oracle.
So I'm not worried about Workday. I do think Salesforce has built a franchise over a long period of time, and they're going to be a formidable competitor in their space. I don't think Workday is. Whenever we have a head-to-head with Workday in the cloud, our human resources versus their human resources, we almost always win. And that's before we were fully launched. So I'm not worried about them. Their product's too immature and they're too small and frail. I'm not SAP. And they made horrible architectural mistakes. Horrible. No database. Mark uses a...
Okay, so nothing they're doing wrong, right? It's all on them. As I wind down and show you this court case that I was in, this courthouse, it was packed. It was an unbelievable case. I flew out there. I paid for it myself because I wanted to witness this. I've said before, I'm a battered woman survivor. I had a hotshot lawyer beat the daylights out of me, and it's a story for another time into details. And sadly, it's in a history in my family. And Jodi Arias said Travis Alexander, eventually she said that he was beating her, which was not true. After another excuse didn't work. The narcissist, the powerful liar, when they lie, they have an increase in positive emotions in the moment of lying. They have a decrease in cortisol, that's stress and anxiety. They have an increase in cognitive thinking. So when one thing doesn't work, they have another answer for you really, really quickly. And they focus on the rewards, not the consequences. And that's what happened with Jodi Arias. When being asked questions, she was unbelievably arrogant in the courtroom, yet Off camera, when she's getting ready to be interviewed, she's charming and likable as she applies makeup. And here's what myself and a couple of the experts had to say about Jodi Arias in this interview that she did. It's a 2-minute clip, and then I'll turn it back to the profilers. Here we go.
Hi, nice to meet you. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself when everybody's like, what network are you with? I'm with CBS. Oh, cool. I'm already speaking with CBS. Oh, you're the Amy that was
Yeah,
me.
I'm
Okay.
the one that you were supposed to be speaking with.
Okay, cool. So you're flying to Vegas?
No, it's actually a producer that does freelance out there. She's the one that we were talking to, and I'm helping her out. So it's kind of confusing. Different states.
Sounds exciting either way.
I already wiped it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
That works.
I guess that's really all I needed. Sorry. Don't roll the tape yet.
Don't roll the tape yet. Joining us to discuss forensic and clinical psychologist. Jenny's in shock. Jenny, want to react before I introduce the guests?
Yeah, I can't even believe it. I can't believe that she was powdering her nose, that she was speaking the way she, oh, that sounds exciting. Wow. It's like narcissism to a whole other level.
Well,
is she deranged? What is that?
Well, she's all of those things, my dear. To discuss, Cheryl Arrett, she's here with me. Also psychologist Robbie Ludwig, author of Till Death Do Us Part. The human lie detector stays with us as well, Janine Driver, and the man who once dated Jodi, Abe Abdelhadi, on the phone. Janine, first, you're looking at that video. I hope you got to see the body language. What came to mind for you?
Well, it's interesting. She's trying to build rapport. She's asking these open-ended questions. I love how you do the little bubbles. We used to see that on the show, Blind Date. She's like, what is she, the reporter now? And it's very interesting. One of the skills I teach at the Body Language Institute, to sell someone, if you're in the business of sales, is to get them talking, ask open-ended questions. And Jodi is in the business of sales. I say for 16 years, I sold a 1-bedroom suite in a gated community. I call it jail. So I sold jail by getting people to talk. She's getting the reporters to talk. Why? In hopes that they like her. Fascinating.
It's for me, Robbie, it sort of feels some familiar, like when she was asking to see the pictures of the crime scene. It felt that same kind of manipulative quality, didn't it?
Right. Well, I think what was so striking for me was how genuinely likable Jodi can be. She can come off as very sweet, very seductive, very curious. And these kinds of people, now we're looking from the outside, it's very easy to demonize her or diagnose her. But when you're actually in the room with someone like a Jodi Arias, it's very easy to get sucked in. So I think she was showing her likability, but on the other hand, we're seeing how she's interested in coming off well, and the vanity there in terms of wanting to make sure she looks good.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so that's what we see. I have a relative, her husband tried to kill her, their 4-month-old baby. He goes to jail. His parents are multimillionaires. He ends up going to a private mental institution and kind of having television access and computer access, and found guilty of attempted murder. And guess what? When he comes out of jail and out of this mental institution, he meets with therapists in the court on, does he get custody to go see his young baby daughter? Will it be supervised or not? He shows up, charismatic, handsome, and he brings a dozen donuts and he puts it on the table, and everyone's just swooning over this cute guy. He's so charming. My friend Frank Marsh over at the FBI says overly charming is alarming. So are you dating a narcissist? Are you a narcissist? And can you do something about it? Maybe we'll talk more about it tonight in our Patreon VIP meeting. So hopefully you'll be there at our happy hour. All right, back over to you, Michelle. All right. So I don't know if you noticed, she had her middle finger up, and she would often do that in court when people were asking her questions. This narcissism is evidently a double-edged sword. It creates both a closeness and an isolation for people, and they can feel invincible, right? So that's why she could do that, because it's like this invincibleness that she has. But yet you could see how charming she is, and the narcissist can pull us in so easily. And, who knows, Michelle, maybe the guy you dated was a narcissist as well. Bing Crosby, I don't know if you followed Bing Crosby's story, White Christmas, and he's so charming in all these movies. He beat the crap out of his kids, evidently. His oldest son wrote a book. They said, we wish we had the dad the world had in all the movies. 2 of his sons shot themselves in the face and killed themselves. When he died, he left his inheritance to his children. I think he had 7 kids. He left his inheritance and divided it among them, but you couldn't get it until you were 65 years old. 3 of his children died before 65. He was an alcoholic, and many people considered him, Bing Crosby, a narcissist.
Well, thank you, Janine. I was going to say that the reason we probably all have come across some narcissist in our life, every single person, sooner or later you will. And if you ever date somebody or are married to somebody, they in the beginning will seem better than anybody else you've ever gone out with. And because they can say and do things like, I love you, you're beautiful, because they don't care. You can say what you want. You can be charming if you don't care. So thank you, Janine. Now, Lena, what would you like to say?
So I have a tip, and of course it's all about words because I'm your word nerd, that I want you guys to pay attention for. It's all about the language. So I have a little presentation I'm going to show, and I will also recite this for our podcast viewers or listeners rather, and just pay attention because I'm going to walk you through what to pick up on and how it can be a warning sign or a danger sign. All right, guys, so I named this danger, warning signs that someone may be lying to you. So we are going to analyze some language for the hidden truth. So here we go. What I want to focus on tonight is when people refuse or don't use I or my, two possessive pronouns. And when they don't use it, it's telling me that they are taking a lack of accountability and responsibility for what they're saying. So as you can see here on the slide, and again, for our podcast people, when people refuse to use I and my, and it should be there, it is a lack of self-reference that shows a lack of commitment, involvement, association to what is being said. It's a way to distance oneself from what is being said. So I'm sure most of you remember the story about Anthony Weiner and his infamous tweet, right? So what happened when he was going through and answering all of the reporters' questions, or not really answering them, and right before he finally admitted sending the tweet, this is what one of his classic responses was. So question, right? Anthony, who sent the tweet from your Twitter account? In one interview, this one that you can see the picture of, he responds this: well, we're trying to figure out who sent the tweet. So again, the question is, Anthony, who sent the tweet from your Twitter account? He should have replied with, I'm trying to figure out who sent it, but he doesn't. And we now know why, because he sent it and he knew that he did. So a way to distance himself and a way that he can get around lying, because again, inherently lying makes people feel bad and most people want to be honest. So to avoid lying, he says, well, we're trying to figure out who sent the tweet. My follow-up question would have been, you and who, Anthony? Right? It just doesn't make sense. What I should hear is, I'm trying to figure it out. And I didn't. So instantly when I heard this interview, I was like, oh, no. He's covering up something because he didn't take accountability for the tweet or the account or for what he was saying. So let's go on. So here's a statement, and this is a legit witness statement that I'm going to show, and I'm going to read it to you. I picked up the gun to clean it, moved it to the left hand to get the cleaning rod. Something bumped the trigger. The gun went off, hitting my wife. Okay, so some of you may already be in tune to thinking, wow, that sounds really fishy. Well, it is, because this guy did kill his wife. But let's pick it apart. He starts off by saying, I picked up the gun to clean it. So we see that's accountability. I picked up the gun. So he's taking responsibility for picking up the gun. But then his next sentence is, moved it to the left hand. Who moved it? It should be, I moved it, but there's no accountability there. We're missing a pronoun, and that is a red flag. Then he calls it, moved it to the left hand. Is there some random left hand just sitting on a table somewhere? It should be, moved it to my left hand, but there's no my. Something bumped the trigger. Well, usually triggers don't get bumped by something. It's usually a finger, your trigger finger. Bumped, triggers don't get bumped, they get pulled. We call that softening language. The gun went off. This is a classic example of passive voice. And most times when people lie, they use passive voice over active voice. I'll explain that in 1 second. Hitting, right? Guns don't hit. They usually kill. Softening language. My wife. Oh, we see a my. Right? He takes accountability for picking up the gun and that this person is his wife, but nothing else. And later we find out it was him who killed his wife. So that passive versus active voice. Most often, or most times, liars will revert to using passive voice. It's a way to, again, distance themselves from what they're saying and not take accountability. So an example, the gun went off is passive. Blank fired the gun is active. And as you can clearly see and hear in this statement, this person used passive voice. Multiple indicators of deception. But again, you're seeing that lack of accountability. No I and no my. Let's go on. Casey Anthony. Oh, we just talked about her last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? Either way, when she called 911 and she was on the phone with the 911 operator, she said this: if I didn't want my daughter, I would have given it to my mother. Do you hear anything odd about that? If you picked up on it, you're correct. So she's referring to her daughter as an it. Usually after people kill their children or kill a person, it becomes a lifeless body and it becomes an it. So I found that odd. And there's something else that I found odd in this statement as well. It's a conditional clause, and usually that begins with the word if, right? If sets the condition. If you remove the condition, sometimes you're left with just the clause, and sometimes that clause has the hidden truth. I didn't want my daughter. Now, she takes accountability. It's my daughter and my mother, but she does refer to Casey as an it. Moving on. Here's another statement. This is a legit statement that I have read. It's a witness statement from somebody who claimed that his plane went missing. And this is his statement to the cops. I'm going to read it to you. About the middle of last month, I went down to the airport to wash my plane. I parked in the normal members only area. I approached the hangar door. Opening the door, I see that my plane is gone. I went up to the office and asked if anyone knew anything about the plane. I then called the police. So if we're focusing on I and my, we have my plane, but as soon as he notices his plane is gone and he went up to the office and asked if anyone knew anything about the plane. This guy actually stole his own plane in the middle of the night for insurance money. So, and he was caught. But as soon as the lie happens, people don't want to take responsibility and accountability. So you will start to not hear I and my becomes something else. And in this case, it was the, just like the left hand. And one more thing, when people tell you that they don't remember something, it could indicate that they actually do remember it. So I like to say don't remember is actually remembering. So truthful people usually tell us what they remember. Deceptive people often say, I don't remember if I did this. The fact that they don't remember is actually remembering. So they're really saying, well, I remember that I don't remember. But it can indicate that a person is withholding information. Here's an example. I don't remember if I made the deposit that night or the next morning, versus I remember making the deposit sometime before Wednesday afternoon. All right, so pay attention to when people say, well, I don't remember if. And then finally, I thought I'd give you some examples of what you may hear in a normal conversation. So if your partner says, or if your partner didn't respond to your phone call or return your message and you don't know where they are, and you ask them, hey, I called you last night, but never heard back from you. Did you get my message? And they say, don't remember seeing your message. And they forget to say, I don't remember. It could be that they don't want to take accountability or responsibility for what they've said. And it could mean that they're lying. And so you say, well, where was your phone? And they say, at the house, it probably died. At whose house? Because it wasn't at my house. So now we have to wonder whose house the phone was at. And so you say, well, were you home last night? And they say, of course. A friend stopped by with a family issue that he needed help with. Sorry for not calling you back. So of course is not yes. So that could be an overly convincing way that a liar may be trying to convince you of their lie. A friend stopped by, not my friend, just a friend stopped by with a family issue. So warning signs, okay? You have to listen for the hidden message. You want to hear I and my, it usually indicates the truth. And when you don't, and you hear any substitute for that, there could be a problem. So pay attention to those possessive pronouns. All right, girls, back to you.
That was so interesting, Lena. Thank you. I will look out for those my's and I's, or no my's or no I's. And I appreciate that. So I'm going to listen and watch everybody's words. You know, I have to tell you, when I type or text to all of you, I'm always going, oh my God, Lena's going to think I'm lying. I didn't put the I in because I was quickly trying to give you a text like, oh my God. But anyhow, I really appreciate that. And I have actually listened when people talk now, and I go, that's lying. And I'll sometimes, just for fun's sake, to somebody, I want you to tell me a story. I want all of it to be the truth. I want 1 or 2 sentences to be a lie, and I want to see if I can pick them out. And since I've been listening to Miss wonderful Lena Sisco, I have gotten almost 100% in that. So thank you. Yeah.
Bravo. You know, can I say something to Lena? You know, I have memory issues a lot. And I don't know if my ADD, so I will often say that. So the people at home, you know, as a cautionary tale, you know, you always want to baseline someone, because I'll say, I don't have a great memory on stuff. If you're asking me what I did last June 10th of 2019, I would say, I don't have the best memory of what I did yesterday, let alone last month, but let me think about it for a second. So put it in context, right, Lena? Am I right on that?
Oh God, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Janine, do you remember what you did September 11, 2001?
Yes.
Lena, do you remember?
Yes.
Michelle, do you remember?
Yeah,
I do remember too. So I think it's a context. And I always says, don't think that because you hear a video on YouTube, 10 ways to find out if somebody's lying. It's deeper, it's more important. Seriously, I don't remember what I had for breakfast today because I worked 19 hours and sleep 3. So it's a miracle I'm here. But if you ask me on my birthday on the 20s or 30s or 40, when my dad died, what happened in September 11, I do gonna remember. So if somebody's not remember, it's not lying to you. Just get a baseline and look to these amazing women. All of you have TikTok and have so many videos out there. So be careful, like, oh, Law and Order, you're like shoulder, and you say no, you're lying. Like, go a little deeper.
Listen, and sometimes you remember some details and not the others, right? You remember Dr. Ford with the Kavanaugh case, you know, saying that he had attacked her, and she remembered some details with very specificity, but not other details. And that's indicative of a truthful person too.
You remember things that affected you emotionally. If it didn't affect you, like, who knows what you ate for breakfast, unless you either loved it or you threw up afterwards. You remember only, I mean, you know, generally, if it emotionally affected you, you'll remember that. But if it didn't, no. Well, thank you. And how about you, Miss Susan? How about telling us whatever you have information?
Guilty pleasure to share with you guys. I was married with a borderline narcissist for a long, long time. And actually, I remember the day that we get divorced, but I don't remember the day that we get married. See my lips disappear? It's not my turf, but Janine, Lena, you can make a part in this. So, but I'm going to go to the other side. My specialty, I'm not going to get on my nose and things that are not my turf. I'm going to show you why. Doesn't matter what kind of relationship you have, because sometimes relationship have to do with your your co-worker, your boss, your business partner, your partner in life. Doesn't matter what that look outside. Sometimes we have communication problems, and it's not the other person is trying to drive you crazy. That person intake and process information in a different way. And we have been so educated and mislead and misinformed on the media that I need to talk to you in the way that I need to feel, then I need to receive information. Then we forget the most important rule. It's not about me, it's about you. So how you need to receive the information is the threshold between getting a divorce, breaking a business relationship, or be the most successful person on the business. So we're gonna show that today. So, okay, maybe most of you don't know that some people around the world cannot recognize faces. So when somebody says, I didn't know what was happening, I didn't recognize the person was aggressive or not aggressive. Guys, can you recognize any of the 5 figures that we have in this picture?
I can.
Okay, Michelle, tell me.
One is Dr. Phil. Then this girl at the bottom, she's a singer, and I forgot her name. Okay, those are my 2.
Girls, do you can recognize any of it? How difficult is for you to see the faces upside down to be recognized? Like I see guys doing this with the head.
For me, it's really easy because I don't know. It doesn't seem that different than upside. I don't know. So
No.
maybe I'm weird.
For me, it's a little more difficult. I think one is Carrie Underwood, maybe, and Dr. Phil, but it's harder.
This is how the images look. What about if I tell you that is a percentage of the population who see faces the way we see it before? So how difficult is for these people, doesn't matter how many of us can teach them and we have it in a class, they cannot see faces. It's called prosopagnosia. 1 every 50 people on the world suffer for this problem. It's a facial blindness. So they can recognize you for your voice. They can recognize it because you have a ponytail. As soon as you change your hairstyle, they do not recognize you. They don't recognize their own kids. They don't recognize their partner. In severe cases, they don't recognize themselves on the mirror. So it's happened on the right part of the brain with all the spatial part happen. So it can be genetic or acquired. You can be born with this situation and you don't know because you never ask anyone what is going on. Like you think that the life happened that way. But in the other hand, if somebody have a tumor on the back part of the right part of the brain and they need to have a surgery, people can come back from the surgery, be face blindness. So when somebody says, I don't understand what you're saying, I don't see you, and you see that person is have a difficult to interpreting your face, either micro expression or your facial features, don't be so hard. Remember, 1 in every 50 people on the world suffer for not being able to see your face, sometimes neither their own face. They cannot even shade themselves because they don't recognize where the face start and end. So we're going to talk about misunderstanding. And the reason I start with prosopagnosia is because we have this bias, even though that we have all this practice, that we assume people see the things that we see it. Like people need to receive information that we receive it. That's the reason I talk about the platinum rule. So I'm going to talk about the 3 things that I teach in my dating classes and all the when I have podcasts or training or keynote speaking about what are the main problems that you can fix just by understand how your partner intake and process information. When you have big ears happen when you start your face on the top of your forehead and your faces stop on the chin. If you're bald, your faces start in the 2 bumps and finish on the first chin. The second chin has nothing to do. So ladies, if you have a second chin, your face start on the first one. So when you have people who have big ears and proportional with the face, they prefer window over speed. So they're going to take their time. They're not going to be interrupting you. They're not going to be participating a lot. So if your partner have big ears and suddenly they don't interrupt you, they don't ask you a lot of questions, it's because they want to hear all the information. Approach will be with length explanation of your expertise, your day and what happened. They're going to let you go and go and go. They're not going to get tired to listen to you. The point, if you want them to participate, you need to ask like, honey, what do you think about what happened today at work? What do you think we should do with the kids? What do you think if we should have a dog? So you need to ask them questions. It's not they're not participating on the conversation. They're waiting for you to stop and participate. And this is the way that we can determine when an ear is big or small. Now, what happened with the opposite? The people before, they listened with their ears. But people who have a small ears, they listen with their eyes. And yes, I have a big accent, but they listen with their eyes. They need to see. So if you want to invite someone to have a vacation when they have a small ears, don't tell them how amazing it's going to be, or you want to buy a house. Show them the pictures. If you want to sell to someone, put it on the car. If you're going to sell a product, show the products. They're extremely sensitive because they can visual overload it. So if you have a person that you want to be concentrated on you, make sure that nothing is too busy happening behind you so that person can concentrate on what you're saying. Show them. Most important, show them. Even with words, when you explain and you make the story about the situation, or show them with graphic. Show them, again, the vacation, the house, the dog that you're going to have, the car you're going to buy, the clothing you're going to use. So if you want to lure your partner who have small ears, send a little kind of naughty picture, not too naughty. Remember, no naughty naked pictures. You never know where they're going to end. But if you like picking the clothing to go for a dinner, just take a picture in front of the glass on the mirror and says, what do you want me to be wearing? Because they're going to be fantasizing to see you on that dress or that suit. Doesn't matter what you dress in, but you need to work on the visual part. You need to lure them to the visual part. Now, we have people who listen to their ears and listen to their eyes. Now, we have a second option when the people have high ears or low ears. That is the way how fast the information is processed. It's people who interrupt, like, hey, tell me what, I didn't finish to tell you what happened today. So they tend to interrupt a lot because they process the information so fast, their brain going faster than the way you process and give that information. So they're gonna need information like 1, 2, 3. So the first example is how you measure when somebody have high ears. From the eye finish, you draw a line. And if the ear is go above, it's a person who's going to be processing information like a 12 terabyte Intel on a computer. Now, if the person have from the line below, is the kind of people who doesn't like to learn things online. If they do, they want to do it in a group. They need to be in a group in order to learn things. They're better at student when they do that, and they like to interact, and they're going to take longer to incorporate new things. So if you try to force someone in a relationship to go to a new restaurant, buy a new house, get a new car, you need to give them time to process the information, and they're probably going to come back with questions. Again, they don't want to try to drive you crazy, is the way they process information. So we need to learn to be a little more forgivable and not think it's always about us. Now, ladies, I'm going to call you on this. What are the difference that you see in these two eyebrows? Do you think they're the same eyebrows, or we have a different on the eyebrows?
There's a difference.
Okay. Do you have any instinct in what the difference can mean?
Well, the left of the screen, it said that angled point, and it goes straight to a point.
Good call, Janine. You are learning. Girls, anything else, Michelle?
Botox on the ones, I'm just, like, it seems pretty high.
Lena?
I don't know. Yeah, that one is really arched.
And then it goes straight to that tip point, like a pinpoint.
I mean, unless it's drawn on, I don't know.
What if I tell you that the right side of your screen is her personal life, and the left part of the screen is his business life, her business life? And actually makes sense. She's an actress. And I'm going to tell you why you can have different eyebrows. You doesn't need to be a narcissist or Looney Tune, but has to do with the career you have. She's an actress, and I'm going to tell you why she having a different eyebrows make her a perfect actress and a person who's going to follow the rules and not going to give me a hard time on the set. So people with round eyebrows, we talk about circle, line, square, and a point, triangle. People who have round eyebrows, like you can make a circle on the eyebrows, is people oriented. It's going to be about pet, make you feel sure that you're feeling good, that you are with other people, that they're going to make sure that you're feeling welcome. They're going to ask you, are you coming for dinner at home? Like, okay, do you have any allergies? What kind of one you like? Oh, you know what? I'm going to be doing pizza. Are you allergic to pizza? They're gluten. They're going to be taking care about everything. They relate on a personal level. So they're going to tell you stories, and they want to hear stories. Now, what about if we have a person like this married or in a partnership with a person like this? Like, holy cow, the person what values logical, also process experience analytically. The other person is about people, the experience. I love you. I want to make sure how everybody feels. But this person is 1, 2, 3, proven methodology. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So we have two people trying to have a relationship, whatever is the kind of relationship, they're processing information in a different way. Our eyebrows are how we process information. Tell me what I need to do and I'm going to do it. Ladies, some of us have these eyebrows. Pointy, angle, friendly and convenient at wide areas of term, space, and scope. We like to read about everything. We want to know everything. We want to be on top. We're going to buy a car. We're probably going to go to the place knowing more than even the sales rep. How many of you went to a place and you know more than the sales rep? Guilty. I have done that. They always do the homework. So if you're going to talk to someone and you're trying to convince someone about anything who have pointy eyebrows, be careful, because this person have done the work. And another thing, they like to be in control. So if you want to pamper somebody who have pointy eyebrows, like it's like a triangle, says, honey, you know what? You're right. We're going to do what you want. And after that, you do whatever you want, because they're not going to remember, but they need to be in control. So when we have a partner who have pointy eyebrows in one part of the life and straight eyebrows in the other one, this woman is an actress. So why is good what she have? And her business side, who's the left part of the screen, is his business side as an actress. I'm going to show on the set, tell me what to do, where I need to show up, what is my script, and I'm going to do it. She lets somebody else to be in control. Tell me what to do and want to do it. Now, in her personal life, she likes to be in control. Why? Because in her business life, somebody else take control. In order to be successful, she's on top of the contract, what movie she's going to do. She decided yes, no. So in this case, the asymmetry is good for her job, because all the other part of the faces are showing me that she's a symmetric person. But in this case, it's somebody that I will work or I want to have a relationship. Now, if you don't like to be somebody else to be in control, make sure that the eyebrows on the right part is round.
Oh, thank you, Susan. I really like that. Like, you've been talking about ears. I never figured out my ears you never can see. Like, what are you talking about? And this really made things so clear. So I really, really appreciate that. I do have a little question for you, Susan. Could you tell me, I didn't quite understand how that was a warning sign in a relationship. So if you could explain that, I would really appreciate it.
What is the number one reason why people complain that they get divorced or they talk to their friends when they have a relationship? He doesn't understand me. She didn't get me. He goes too fast and interrupt me all the time. He never asks questions. She's always telling me about what happened at work. And like, I can understand, like 3 times you tell me the same story. Are you driving me crazy? Woman, you need to go to therapy. Dude, you need to go to therapy. Those are the warning signs that we have in every day. I always say, we're looking for Ted Bundy when we don't realize the next door neighbor is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that makes all the sense. And in fact, you know, we're not dealing hopefully with Ted Bundys, but we're dealing with people that we just can't understand, or they can't understand us. So I really appreciate that you shared that, because it is a warning if we don't listen and understand the people we're dealing with. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There are 3 things, and I always say 4 things when we do a face reading. The problem when you're reading a face is you compare that face to yours. My nose doesn't fit, it fit different in you and Lena and Michelle and Janine and my next door neighbor. Second of all, it's our own bias and dictionary. We bring our own experience to a reading. We want our own experience. Like, if I feel cold, why you feel hot? Well, I'm premenopausal, so I feel hot. You're 10 years younger. So we cannot use our own bias and dictionary. Third, I'm so tired that I don't pay attention to you. 4 is normalization, where you're so used to certain things that we are not paying attention to that. And the 5th is we are being criticized so long for those things that when we find somebody who likes them, we are not even recognizing in ourselves. So what I'm saying about it is we need to understand that it's about the other person if you want to communicate. If I give you the tools to understand me because I understand you, reciprocity, now the warning signs of a bad relationship and a bad communication can be avoided. I cannot say, oh, because you don't understand me. It's like, maybe I understand you wrong. Can you explain me again? And that warning signs are going to disappear because now we have a conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciated that. Great advice. Thank you, dear Miss Susan. Well, why don't I talk about the handwriting?
I'm sorry. We have Janine. Sorry, I didn't want to admit it. I'm so sorry. I'm going to edit that. It's funny. I keep doing this in my chin. I have done it all my life.
Yeah, I never do.
Well, I'm hiding my dimply chin.
You have a beautiful
Honey, don't shit with your chin.
Everything about you is
Hey, Janine,
beautiful.
welcome back.
Yeah.
So
Hi,
I did my piece and I did the closing. So Michelle now is going to be talking about her part, and we're going to do the closing after. Okay, so we are recording.
Hi, well, before we look at the handwriting, don't forget to press that like button and subscribe. Don't forget, okay? Now, let's look at the handwriting. All right, so I am going to present stop reading and start running. In other words, if you see any of these signs in handwriting, I want you to just stop reading, get those shoes laced up and start running. Why don't we look at the first slide? Okay, now this, you see inside that O or A, there's a little stinger looking stroke. It looks like a bee stinger. Now, if you go back and you watch our video on Casey Anthony, I talked about bee stingers. And when you see a bee stinger in handwriting, what does it mean? It means that the person either refrains from sex completely, or if they don't, they can't stop. So, I mean, I thought about Casey Anthony, and I thought about, like, nobody really knew who Kaylee's father was. Well, hey, the bee stinger, she couldn't stop. I tell you another little story about a bee stinger. I used to ski a lot, and I was going up the ski slope with this really cute guy next to me, and he had this big hat, and he said, "Do you want lunch?" And we went in, and after the chairlift, got some lunch. And of course, I told him I did handwriting. He asked me, "Oh, look at mine, look at mine." And I did, and sure enough, he had a bee stinger in his handwriting. And I was like, well, bee stingers mean either, and I told him, either you're a sex maniac or you don't want to do it at all. And he laughed, and he said, "Well, I'm a priest." And I said, "Oh," and he said, "Well, not that I don't like women." He said, "But, I made a vow, and, once I made that decision, I never had sex ever again." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, nice knowing you." Okay, now let's look at the next slide. Okay, this is called ground-in punctuation. You see the grinding of the train, grinding. Now, to make a punctuation, a dot, an exclamation, a comma, and you take your hand and you grind it into the page, and you grind it. What are you? Obsessed and angry. So if you see somebody and in their handwriting, look at their periods, look at their dots, look at their exclamation. If your hand is stuck there, you have an obsessive person who's stuck on something and angry. You want a stalker, look for that. You don't want a stalker, get rid of that person immediately. And why don't we look at the next slide? Okay, now, do you see that little, it looks like a claw in the G, the bottom of the G, it looks like a claw. This is called a felon's claw. Now you find, just because you have a felon's claw does not mean you're a felon. However, you see felon's claws in about 70% of all felons. Now I guarantee you that what a claw means is, I want something, I'm going to try to get it, and then I'm going to sabotage myself. Now it's not the kind of person you want to be in a relationship with, because they will do something to sabotage that relationship. But I'll guarantee you, of you people watching this show, a good portion of you have that claw. There is a lot of claws. Now, if that claw is in your own handwriting, what does it mean? It actually means, I feel guilty. I don't believe I deserve something. I believe that guy is really going to leave me. I believe she would never, love me. Well, they get involved and then they keep doing things over and over again. And finally that person leaves them and they go, see, that person left me. But they set themselves up for failure. So if you see that in your own handwriting, one, you need to work on why are you guilty? What are you doing to sabotage your own relationships? And you got to get rid of that. Get rid of a claw. You can work on things in handwriting. If you don't like it, you can change it and it will change things about you, but you need to be aware of it and what it means. So look out for the felon's claw. And I think that's it for the handwriting for today. There's not thousands, but hundreds of different combinations of traits in handwriting that will show if you can get along, what you might need to do to change things. These are just 3 very fun, interesting ones. And I hope, you will see these. These are 3 common ones. So why don't we, that's a wrap for the handwriting. So unless somebody has a question, any question, then question from Susan.
Is any a specific letter that we need to be paying attention? Because when you do that letter, I cannot recognize it. So I don't know, we need to be looking on H, we need to look it on T's. Is any specific letter or we need to look for the symbol?
No, you're looking for that movement, the symbol. In fact, if you're driving a car and go through certain neighborhoods and you'll see a lot of graffiti, I guarantee you're going to see that claw on a lot of graffiti. So no, it could be on, everything is more important if it's in your signature or in your letter I, meaning me, myself, and I. But it could be on a G, it could be on an H. It doesn't matter what letter it is. It's the movement of the hand, the feeling of the hand.
I don't know if I brought this up on the show before or offline, so I'm going to say it briefly. When I was 17, I lost my virginity. And if you go back and look at my journals from when I was 17, I had the felon's claw there, right? Raised an Irish Catholic kid. I'm the oldest. And, my mother and father would have been devastated. And so you see that felon's claw. And I had someone say to me one time, I said, listen, I did that when I was like 17. I changed my J. So my Janine, instead of being a capital J, I went down, felon's claw, and cross. And it was a guy, handwriting expert. And he said, what year did you lose your virginity? I go 17. He goes, yeah, a lot of people lose their virginity. So if you have kids at home and they start doing the you may want to make sure they're not alone.
Say, birth control. No, you look for changes in handwriting. If it changes all of a sudden, something's going on with that person. You had something, Lena?
Yes. So you said something about movement, right? So I know to look for the felon's claw, but why is it that movement? Why not an X? Why not something else? What about that movement indicates it?
There's all different movements. And that one, if you're really going backwards. So when your hand moves, it goes this way, but a claw goes in that direction. And when you think, and it's symbolic of what a claw, so, and it's going backwards to the past, which means you've done something in your past, you went backwards in the wrong direction, and you can't, in a way, you can't relax about it. It's holding you back.
Has to do with don't let it go.
You can't, if you have claws, it's funny. I knew at some point, Janine, you had claws. I don't know why I was going to say it, but a lot of people have them. And what did you just asked me a question, Susan, and I forgot. What was it?
So when people have claws, is related to not let it go, because I have the image of claws like I hold in something and I not let it go, like a bird. I hold in the branch.
It's like that. What it is guilt from the past, and you can't let it go. And you do things over and over again, and you sort of set yourself up. You go deep down in your head, you're sort of saying, I don't deserve something good to happen in my life. And so you set yourself into situations and you say, it didn't work out. See, I knew it wasn't going to work out, but you sort of set it out. And I bet if anybody out there, you have claws and you you say to yourself, I go, when you got involved in this, did you know that something wasn't going to work out? And almost always they go, well, yes. I said, why'd you do it? And they just sort of sit there. And because you have guilt and you kind of redo things to kind of say, see, I deserve that. Or you don't really say that in your head, but deep down, that's what's going on. Janine, yes?
So what about if I have guilt about writing to my friend John? Could I write John, dear John, with the Felons Clause, dear John, call me when you get into the office. But my friend Jill, I have no guilt, right? And I could do, is it possible I could do a different J, a more fuller J? Hey, Jill, call me when you get here. Can my J's change, or or this felon clause, can it appear at for different people if I'm guilty about something with John, but not
yes.
That's a really good one.
Yeah,
Janine.
wonderful question. I'm sorry. I had to put my dog down on the floor. Yes, if you see that, like let's say somebody writes your name, Janine, and they have a felon's clause in Janine and not in others, they have having a weird feeling about you. So if you write Dear John, and it only works, like it's not in all your J's, just with John, you either feel guilty about John, or you might have had a fling with John, or you have a weird feeling about John. So yeah, look for where it is, because where it is important. I mean, some people just have it everywhere, but some people only put it on specific things. And if all of a sudden when you write somebody's name, boom, wow, I never did that before. Think about why and what that person means to you. Good question, Janine. Anything else?
No, my question is, what is going to be the teaser for our Patreon members today? Who went through? I threw the teaser last week. Who is the most extrovert person on the team? And people went ballistic when we went to the happy hour and like, are you really? That's the most extrovert person, and how to measure that? Who gonna throw the teaser for tonight?
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna before we break, between when you're watching this at home at 5 p.m. East Coast time and tonight at 9 p.m. East Coast time, being live with us in our happy hour, if you're a Patreon member, I'm gonna go find my journal and I want to show you literally how my writing changed if I can.
I want to see that. Well, let's do that tonight.
I'll do that too.
The Patreon people can do it too. They'll give us.
Okay, yeah. Bring your handwriting tonight. Okay. So, well, why don't we? It's getting late, so why don't we wrap it up?
Okay, Lena, we have a special club, and I love to belong to the special club. Can be nutty, can be interesting, can we know things that nobody else knows? We can ask things about us that nobody else can ask on the show. Why? Because we are live. And in order to do that, you need to be part of Patreon. And Lena, you're in charge of that. You're the boss of that. What is Patreon?
So Patreon is a website where you can join special tiers. And we have 4 tiers right now. And each tier has a paid subscription amount that is associated with it. And each tier gets you benefits, right? So a couple of those tiers allow you to join us in a happy hour that we do every Wednesday night after the release of our Wednesday 5 p.m. show. And we take your questions about the show, but we also do some teasers, as Susan said, and we have an open forum with you guys. And it can get pretty funny, very candid, but we really want to make this happy hour, we call it, so bring your drinks, about you. So we do this show for you, but that happy hour is all about you. And so we want to cater to you. So again, you can go to patreon.com/profilertaskforce and look us up. You can also go to our website, theprofilertaskforce.com, and there's a link to Patreon there. You can also go to my company website, which is The Congruency Group, and there's a link to it on there. So there's many ways you can find it, but we would love to have you guys join our Patreon family as an ambassador and get to know us at a more personal level.
I've got my popcorn ready for the party.
I could use some. I'm hungry.
I know, me too.
Well, I would call it the Pandora box, because you never know what is this wild bag of cats can bring it to the table. So bring your drink.
Yes, sometimes we have really VIP guests that you would not have the access to unless you are in our happy hour, because these are really hard to reach people. Experts.
You want excitement? Grab your credit card, your drink, and be ready for the ride. Girls, I cannot wait for tonight.
Michelle, great job.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Everybody, we love you.